Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to recap a bit of the conversation we had briefly in class yesterday about kind of doing some CSS detective work as you are looking to lay out your pages for your final projects. So to take another example that I know is relevant to the class, this is obviously the homepage of Refugees Deeply. And one thing that I want to point out here is that you all don't need to be too you don't need to worry about being too precise with matching up the layouts. I think the main thing that you want to look at is how to kind of evoke it, right? So in this case, what we can see is that we've got a header and a background image that's the full width of the page, but as we come down, we sort of start to see something that looks pretty well like it might be a 12 column layout, right? Because we have these four kind of uh, little boxes with different perspectives in them. Or even if we come down here, right, we might see this, we could treat this part as, an 8 and a 4, or maybe it's a 9 and a 3. Again, don't worry too much about getting it precisely the same organization. And remember that when it comes to some of these things, for example, there's no need to worry about implementing like the header, for example. You can just take that as a screen grab if you want. But, we want to do our best to kind of give the look and feel of the site. So in doing this, obviously some of the most important things or some of the features that are going to help generate that sensibility the most are going to be things like fonts, actual fonts, colors, notations, things like that. So really just to reiterate here, kind of the easiest way to go about this is while I have the page up, I'm going to right click on a specific element. Say I want to understand, I'm thinking about laying things out and I want to understand what this blue is, and just hitting inspect. And the default usually that will come up in my, the default that should come up in my inspection tools here is going to be the elements panel. The elements panel has the actual HTML elements. It hasn't selected quite exactly the thing that I'm looking for. It sort of did a larger piece of it. And if I do it again, I can see where within that is specifically that thing. Now, again, I can see the class is whatever taxo channel is. That's actually two classes. And they're treating it's also obviously a link, right? I can actually I can take these and I can apply them successively in the way that they have been applied here. Weirdly, these seem to be coming. Yeah, okay, so these are coming from kind of a random CSS file. So I probably don't want to go after that CSS file directly. But instead, as I said, just, take the information that's available. So over on the right-hand side here, we can see that there's quite a bit of information. We know what the padding is, right? So this is a shorthand. It starts at the top and goes top, right, bottom, left. So not actually even padding all around. We can see that the background color here is this particular blue. The text color, again, the higher level style sheet has the gray, which is obviously what's influencing these, but because this is highlighted, it's going to be white. And so on and so forth. Again, we see here some font families, things like that. Z-index, you don't need to worry too much about. It basically is the depth positioning. So the higher it is, the closer to the front it's going to be. And, on down the line, we see text decoration, none. Again, underline is a text decoration. Bold is a font weight, not a font style. Most of this stuff is kind of X'd out. But to get the main look and feel here, I'm going to use the font size, the padding. Border radius is actually what is giving this little slight curve to the edge of these boxes here. All of this is just regular CSS. So what I would recommend here is I probably wouldn't take just I probably wouldn't keep the class names, but I would definitely, copy out the actual values here and paste them into my own CSS style sheet as a way to get started. And I would go ahead and merge these in many cases. So again, this is pretty much all that I'm going to need to worry about. Like I could come here again, and if I want to find, the size, so it's sort of giving it to me a little bit in this hover. Another handy way to see that is here. And so what this is showing me is it's saying, look, actually the box that contains the text here is, 210.891. You're also going to see a lot of weird numbers, especially because a lot of these things are going to be judged as proportions. So, again, don't get too caught up in the actual, in the precise measurements. The padding is 20 all around. And then, as we get to this higher part, right, I'm going to start to see something that looks a little bit more sensible here. And so that box size, right, is is kind of incorporating the padding. So padding, this also, by the way, this is the so-called box model. So padding is, so we have the internal element, we have the padding, which is the amount of space around it. So now the element that I've selected is actually the highlight box, not the text box that's inside it. And we can see that that's about 251 by 140. And then it has a specific right margin of about 25 pixels. Again, don't get too caught up in the specifics here. What you want to do is evoke the layout, evoke the aesthetics of the site, and this is sort of the most straightforward way to do that. Not really a lot else to share here. I mean, if you do want to go and look at the actual source files, you can do that, and you'll see that one of the ways I can do that is if I click on this sources. Okay, I can come down here and this is going to show me basically these are the locations around the web that this web page is pulling other content from, right? So you're probably doing that. In fact, we can see that they are also using the Bootstrap CDN, which is something that you all are doing on your web pages. And I can open this up and I can say, okay, what is it that they're pulling from there? And they have some CSS and they're using something called Font Awesome, which I'm sure you can look up through the Bootstrap CDN, and specific fonts. So what this does is give us a view on what are some of the specific files that they're loading from other places, and we have some facility for actually viewing those files and looking at the source. We can see that they're using this web font. There's actually a separate somewhere here. There's a separate thing that will show us the fonts that are being loaded. But in any case, I mean, basically it's just to say, yeah, we can see the fonts of the Google API. There's something called PT Serif. This is how they're handling various, they're loading this font for a whole bunch of different languages called PT Serif Regular. So Google Fonts is a place that you can look for that. But again, as I said, you're going to evoke you want to evoke the feeling here, not get too caught up in the details. But do be pretty rigorous when it comes to the colors, sizes, styles, to the extent of like, is it a serif font or is it a sans serif font, and things like background and highlight colors. If you have any questions about this or there's specific things that you're having trouble locating, please feel free to reach out. There's always a way to track it down, and especially if you are having questions about how to add certain elements or position them. If you're having issues with iframes, please reach out via Piazza and let me know. And that's, as I said, that's pretty much it. So I look forward to your questions and especially to your second drafts coming this weekend. And we'll also see you next week where we can talk about some of these things in more specific detail. All right, have a great week.